Jeff to provide to us not only a review of the property, but also to have him obtain for us hard construction numbers, so we can then prepare that document, or at least have that conversation with you folks. I provided you all the ability that we were going to have, and if you wish to attend, please let me know. So if I had more than 3 attending, then I would have to post it. So primarily the meeting was for the staff to hear of the repair method and to discuss with him hard numbers for the property. So you heard it all firsthand, and that's why you heard the way you did.
But I do think that as a courtesy, the members of the committee that are going to do that probably should be, or at least made aware of the need help. Because they spend a lot of time over there, as I understand it. And, well, Bob was chair, he knows how much time they spend over there. I believe you were chair, weren't you, Bob? Yeah. And, I just think as a courtesy, we probably should have invited. I think any committee, and maybe it's disbanded because it isn't disbanded.
Well, disbanded.
Oh, yeah, it's no longer in existence. It served its purpose and died.
But I really feel so, that just as a courtesy to those people who spent the time, that they should have been invited for that. That's my personal opinion.
Any comments?
One of the
Go ahead.
One of the things that came about from that conversation that morning, and I spoke to Keith about it, is the fact that I feel that the engineering firm should come before the board for a public meeting and discuss all of the issues. And they agreed to do that. The one thing that didn't happen was there were no solid figures. But the only thing that kind of pleased me, as far as expenses is concerned, it pleased me was the duration of the building. And I must say, the recommendation I made certainly contributed to the extension of time considerably. And they followed it, fortunately. And there are some things that I still question in the design part, and I'm not an architect, but I've been around for a year or two, and I can see some things that I would prefer to go over with the engineer and make sure that what is being proposed is actually going to work.
Well, could we have him come to a public meeting?
I'm sorry?
Could we invite him now to come to a public meeting, so that the public can hear and understand about their fire station?
Absolutely. That was one of the things that you, when you left the meeting.
Yeah, we gotta start figuring.
Once we have the hard figures,
We're gonna have a
we're gonna
public.
have them come to the meeting and explain it to you all. Because at that issue, when that occurs, then you're gonna have to let us know how you wanna fund it.
Because I know the time was changed to accommodate him,
Correct.
and nobody was asked if they accommodated him or not.
Again, Selectman Murphy, the primary purpose of that was to allow staff and him to have that conversation. We certainly would have had a conversation at a business meeting with you folks on the hard numbers. You all were extended invitation, you all exercised that invitation.
But what I'm saying was, I think it was the last minute we changed the time.
Any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Topey.
Dave Scolpi. I'm sorry I was late tonight, but I didn't see it on the agenda. Last meeting, you held off voting to put the parking lot back on the November ballot. You had the opinion of the Maine Municipal Association that advised you that our previous vote didn't count anymore. I believe Jim wanted to have a real legal opinion given before we made a decision. Did I miss the vote? It's not on the agenda.
We haven't got
What
that
happened?
legal, we do not have that legal opinion yet.
When would that be coming?
Soon. Hopefully by
Before the next meeting?
before the next meeting.
Okay, so it'll be on next month's agenda, or next meeting's agenda. Then I heard some discussion tonight about the status of the security and maintenance of the very dangerous building across the street. However, I didn't hear anything about the other dangerous building in town, the one that we are liable for, the Estabrook School. What's happening with that? Can that be put on the danger building list and
The
see who's liable?
recommendation of the committee was to remove the building,
Was to move,
to remove the wooden building,
okay,
seal up the end of the stairwell at the stairs where the steps go up to the other building. And that was, you were on the committee, you were aware of what was said. The issue becomes the financial, the cost of removal, it's gotta be budgeted for.
and I
Whether
truly
whether we tear it down or burns down, you know, I can't answer that one, but all I can say is, it is a budgetary item.
It seems more concerned though, right now, about the prime building than there is about our own building. And, I mean, you even said, I mean, whose budget does it come out of? It's ours, and it's our liability on our building. You know, not be picking on prime till we can take care of our own, liability.
And I agree, the chances of that building burning up there is quite
Quite good.
possible. However, it is a budgetary item, number one. Number two, the budgetary item here, we've already had 2 fires. We also had a pit that was full of water that a youngster could have drowned in. And so those things, to me, takes a little more precedent than the wooden building up on the other side of town, or up here further town. If we have a fire there, I would guess the fire department probably could get there.
Although there is a mini substation there, simply because the power for our police station goes through that old abandoned building.
Yep, and it's a lousy system.
Yep, and I just
And
walked through it again, and
But we
and
recommended
90% of the
changes
windows
to
are
that
broken.
also. Again,
It's very accessible.
it's all financial connected. That whole scenario is financially connected. Until finances are available to change that over, I'm gonna stay the way it is, that's my guess.
That's too bad.
Well, it is, but, you know, I've heard tonight about taxes going up, and we can certainly add another piece of change to that bill, very easily, very easily. So sometimes you have to bite your tongue and say, you know, maybe we can wait a year or two. I understand your opinion, but that's my opinion.
$75 for the lease.
Mrs. Dobie, I would like to say that I feel as though on the parking lot over there, we do have a legal opinion on it from Jeff Berman, who I worked with for many years when I served on state and local in the legislature, and he is an attorney. And one thing about the Maine Municipal Association, they're mostly attorneys, and believe me, they come before the legislature on every single bill that has any effect on municipalities at all. And they look at both sides to see what it will harm, it will do municipalities and everything. We do have a legal opinion on it, and it was a non-lapsing account. And so I don't really think, in my opinion, that we need another legal opinion, because they have, MMA has umpteen lawyers. And all they do is municipal law, nothing else. And I want it very closely said that I did not agree with what my chairman said about Maine Municipal Association. Not in any way.
And I heard you, thank you. But that's my opinion.
Continue, Mrs. Copey, please.
Lastly, you just signed a lease for 75 years. 3 of you voted yes in favor of that. Would it be fair to ask each of the 3 of you individually why specifically you voted in the affirmative?
That is a vote, that is a done deal, that's all I'm talking about. That's all I have to say. I'm not rehashing that whole process.
I voted for it because 1,559 people voted for that. Once we went back to what was originally voted,
2 years ago, yeah.
Right, 72% of the people.
Some of
Was
them
it
are here that.
2160 voted and 1559 voted for it. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, people have been going on and on and on and on about low income and over 55. Those two items were never part of the proposal, never. People in the audience talked about it, but those two things were never a part of it. It was always median income and it was open to age.
Will of the people that voted 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Some of them are sitting here that voted in the affirmative on a question on a ballot that we simply elect our elected officials to give us their best insight. And on the ballot, it said, on the recommendation of your selectmen, 5-0. And people come to the voting booth and say, these people are trying to do the good for their community, in their opinion, at that time in the voting booth. We found out since then that that's completely false. So, 2 years ago, a vote that
Excuse me.
went on.
He answered the question.
Let him
He
finish.
answered your question.
I'm in my comment portion of the
Some of
program.
the
So
other.
2 years ago, we voted in the affirmative on your recommendation,
Not my recommendation.
on the board's recommendation. Since then, we have found out more information about that project than you can shake a stick at. And you have found more information about that
And I
since
found out
then.
that the
So,
sewer department
so
is gonna receive
what we were voting on was
$106,000
your
next
recommendation,
year.
not the value or the good of that community. 20 times, we've asked one question. Tell us what the good that's gonna do our community. And no one has come up with an answer that tells us in dollars and cents, or even common sense, why that's any good for our.
Because some of us who voted 2 years ago didn't understand it
No.
at all either.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't know that I was voting 10.2 acres.
Very.
Yeah, I just have a couple of quick questions or comments. My question is, on the issue of a budget committee, would it be possible to put that as, on the November ballot, as some form of a referendum question that the public could vote on if they would like a budget committee at all, 1 and 2 elected or appointed? That way the board could get some feedback from the community as to how strong the feelings are about this.
I really think that should be put on in May, the simple reason for us to have time to really study that out and have some public hearings and have.
Well, this would be just to see how the public feels about it.
Well,
Just
I-
not to
I-
vote on it, just as a informational question.
Well, maybe, but I'm not sure there's we've got enough information out and talked to enough people on it. I wanna have an open.
Well, this isn't so
an
much
open
information.
dialogue.
Okay. One of my other questions is, has code enforcement talked to the owners or overseers of the prime property to, or cited them or anything for the condition of that building? I'm sure in the building code there's plenty of language that he could take and cite that might help move things along before it got to the point of a dangerous building situation. And if we have to go in there and board it up, it is gonna cost money. So I take a little bit of, I'll make a comment that I disagree with Bob that the old school building's gonna cost money to tear down. Yes, it will, but to go board up this building over here, it costs money to go do that too. And one thing Dave didn't mention, which he is aware of though, all the communication for that police station of ours goes through that old building. So if fire burns that down, our police station basically is dead in the water, it won't have electricity, it won't have communication. To me, that should be a little bit more of a high priority than the perceived liability of the prime property over here, that we really don't at this point have any liability if someone got hurt over there. But the second we start boarding that place up, and someone goes in there and gets hurt because they got through our protective boarding up, then we are fully liable. But the school is an issue. Yeah, it's gonna cost to tear it down, but that's a big liability, not having communication for our police department.
I guess I disagree with you, Peter, in the sense that, the power supply for that building is underground.
No, it comes from a pole into that substation at the corner of the building.
And I mean, all of the wiring is underground.
No, it is not.
I've just talked to their communications officer, and it runs overhead. I found the two lines. I found a path to run it underground, but I'm not gonna do it for free.
Keith, how big a project is it to straighten out that electrical thing up there? Did anyone look into that?
You sure?
Keith,
I got numbers.
when they went, we're gonna run the line into where they're gonna build the apartments, weren't they gonna put the police department on that line? When they got run in?
One of the things we discussed
I
was,
thought it was.
no, one of the things we discussed, they're gonna be doing away with their transmission line coming off of School Street. They're gonna be running a new line underground to the apartment complex.
But I thought they were gonna allow the police department to hook on to that.
No, what will be available will be the existing transformer at the corner there. They've agreed, to put, underground conduit in from that location over to the police station. So we may be able to accomplish taking care of the electricity through working with the contractor.
I saw Andrea, I believe. Did you want to speak?
I just wanna say that we've had this conversation about, that school and the apartments for a long time. And I think some of us that voted yes on that building back in 2009 were not informed enough, myself included. I think people need to be more informed, and I worked at the, voting, polls last time, and it was an eye-opener. We have a lot of people that go to vote that don't know what they're voting. And that's what hurts, all of us, really. And I've heard from a lot of people that just got their tax bills, they're not happy. So we need to really get the word out there on what things are on the ballots and stuff.
Okay, motion to adjourn.